So, as you know, Ben and I met when I was on air at Fox, and I used to put him on all the time, and he was basically 17, and he was brilliant, and it was obvious even back then. And speaking of Fox, this is my transition. Boy, did they have a problem on their hands last night. I watched this, Jeremy, and all I could think, and I texted this to my team, some of whom are ex-Fox people like me, saying there is zero chance Roger Ailes would have allowed this. These pro-Palestinian protesters who were trying to disrupt the Rockefeller Center tree lighting ceremony, which is just across the street, basically, from Fox. It's all Midtown Manhattan. Couldn't get there, and so they decided to make Fox News their staging ground, and things got rather rowdy at times. I mean, I'm telling you, Roger Ailes, who had the second floor corner window overlooking the front plaza on Fox News, he would have had a security team out there. They would have been dispersed within 20 minutes. I'm not saying it's Fox's fault. It just showed me like how far we've fallen as a country, as they've fallen as a channel when it comes to the management. And here's a look at some of the scenes in Midtown last night. Yeah. So we could keep going. It got rowdy. It got somewhat violent with pushing back at cops and looked like pepper spray being unleashed on people. Look at this. Look at this. This is all happening stone's throw from where people are trying to see the damn tree lighting. Like, take your pro-Palestinian message and shove it. Go home. Manhattan is busy enough. Midtown Manhattan is busy enough. And the Rock Center Christmas tree lighting, for some people, has turned into a very special annual event. I'm sick of these scenes, and I'm sick of it being allowed. You know, they managed to keep them away from the actual tree, but I'm sure they ruined several people's nights.
Of course they did. And I guess they're just mad about that one Jew who Christmas recognizes. Otherwise, there are no Jews there for them to be mad at. It's the most peculiar thing to think that they were going to stage this rally. I guess it's just to maximize public exposure is what it's really about. But yeah, you know, we have fallen in love with a really bad idea in the West, and the really bad idea is that all cultures are the same, that all cultures are morally the same, that all cultures are interchangeable. And it turns out they're not. You know, in the same way that when I look back at communists in the 19-teens and the 1920s, I have a little bit more sympathy for them than communists on the other side of the Soviet Union or on the other side of Mao's revolution. Because, you know, they were just kind of new, novel ideas back in those days, and you didn't know what the consequences would be. Sure, there were people who could tell you, I think the consequences will be that, but it hadn't been borne out. I feel the same way now about this. I get it. After the war, we had this very broad, very expansive liberal view of cultures, and we thought that maybe cultures were interchangeable, and we thought that maybe, you know, if we stirred the pot, that we could bring peace on earth. If we're still holding on to those ideas now, though, we can look all around and see that it is not true. There are cultures that are simply, in their current states, incompatible. There are cultures that are superior, and there are cultures that are inferior. And it's not wrong to love your culture, and it's not wrong to want to preserve your culture. And this mass migration of the second half of the 20th century is truly bringing all Western cultures to an existential crisis. And I don't know what the answer to it is. I fear that a lot of the people who recognize this diagnosis are going to come up with really terrible prescriptions for how to fix it. So I think that thoughtful people need to be giving real time and consideration to what sort of moral answers to this might be, because if we don't, I'm afraid we'll wind up with immoral answers. But there's no question that we have a massive, massive problem on our hands. You can't have an America that is allowing this sort of, you know, well, candidly, people who genuinely hate the country, genuinely hate what the country stands for, to run rampant through our streets. It's just, that is not a recipe for success as a nation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't have it as badly as, we don't have it as bad as Europe does, but that's where we're going. Not. You can see the preview if you want to see what's going to happen here if we continue with the open border policy and the talk by some on the left of taking Gaza refugees. There was not a single Gaza refugee should be brought to this country. There is no reason for it. The Arab world contains, I don't even know the number, dozens of countries in proximity. If refugees need to be moved out of Gaza, they need to go into those countries where they have more in common with the culture, because those countries deserve to have a common culture as well. That's right. Go to Jordan. Go to Jordan. full of Palestinians. The queen over there, Rania, she's been all over television saying how sad she is for them. Take them. Go ahead. Prove it. Why should we take them? We're not taking them. I want to say what happened in Oakland, California last night because it was pretty extraordinary. You don't have to be an immigrant on Monday to misunderstand America and what happened in connection with our closest ally in the Middle East, Israel, and the terror attack on it. The amount of nonsense coming out of the mouths of the people who showed up at this city council meeting on Monday was absolutely extraordinary. There were hundreds. They weighed in at a meeting that lasted reportedly 5 hours as the city council was voting on whether they should support this resolution calling on Congress to demand an immediate ceasefire, right? That's an anti-Israel resolution. The council voted 8-0 for it. Yes, they want an immediate ceasefire. They're not much interested in seeing Israel end Hamas. And the back and forth of those who were there debating the amendment, the resolution and impossible amendments to it was absolutely stunning. So take a look at just some of what was said in SOT 1.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat.
I support the right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
The notion that this was a massacre of Jews is a fabricated narrative. Many of those killed on October 7th,
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Including children, were killed by the IDF. An amendment condemning Hamas is bald propaganda meant to...
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them complain about Hamas violence is like listening to a wife beater complain when his wife finally stands up and fights back.
Question. Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
Oh my God. Just a bit of color for you there. The first woman who said there have not been beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people. That is Christina Gutierrez, according to Stop Anti-Semitism on X. She is a program analyst with the city of Oakland, earning more than $151,000 a year in pay and benefits, apparently to spew her venomous hatred against Jews.
Yeah.
They're not even ashamed of it, Jeremy. They're out there saying it loud and proud.
Well, first of all, if in the year of our Lord 2023, you're wearing a diaper on your face, none of your political opinions mean anything to me.
Yeah.
Fully 50% of those people are masked like it's March of 2020. I don't understand the world they live in. And then second of all, anti-Semitism is an ancient evil. Anti-Semitism is an evil that can't really be combated through direct action. It's like a lot of slippery evils in that way, because if you go directly at it, you sort of validate in some strange way some of the core and disingenuous arguments of anti-Semites about control and things of that nature. But anti-Semitism on this scale in this country has never existed in my lifetime. It's amazing how quickly it's arrived. It's amazing how ill-prepared we seem to have been to deal with it. It's disgusting and horrible, and it requires you to believe all sorts of other conspiracies, because anti-Semitism is essentially a conspiracy of its own. So when you say things like the IDF was killing its own children, it's not surprising that an anti-Semite would say something like that. They're already conspiratorial. They're already conspiracy theorists. So they just believe all kinds of nonsense. You should ask that person if we landed on the moon. I'm sure they'll tell you, no, the Jews did that in some secret Jewish movie studio to advance some secret Jewish agenda or whatever it is. They have a mental illness and a spiritual illness. And again, I don't want that in my culture. That isn't, it's not American. Israel is, yes, our greatest ally in the Middle East. They're also the originators of Western civilization. They're the keepers of the Promised Land and not of the Holy Land, excuse me. And not only that, but if you put all religious and theological arguments aside, Israel's right to exist is essentially the right of every nation to exist. Because if your argument is, well, other people lived there first, well, I got bad news for you. Someone lived everywhere first.
Debt. Oh, it's stressful. You can go to bed thinking about it. You can wake up thinking about it. It can haunt your days. I've been there. I have, trust me. Before I became a TV person, I was a law school student that had $100,000 in debt and no way to pay it, and I was stressed. High interest credit cards had those too. And loans make it nearly impossible to pay off your debt. And insane inflation keeps you stuck paycheck to paycheck. The system traps you. Donewithdebt.com can actually be a lifetime. If you're stressed out about this, listen up. I've talked about my own experience with debt in the past, and I get it. Well, donewithdebt.com has got a new strategy to help erase your debt faster and easier than you ever thought possible. Here's what they can do for you. Analyze all the debt options that you qualify for, minimize your interest rates, cut your medical bills, and reduce debt without bankruptcy and without a loan. But you do need to hurry because some of the debt solutions are time sensitive. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's DEBT. Find out how easy they make it and find out if it's right for you. Donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.